Kind of looks like a cross between Gandalf the Grey from Lord of the Rings and probably Jesus.
Well, this guy with a gray hair and big beard, you know, just kind of an iconic figure.
Institution. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. Institution, a legend, just all around legend.
Legend.
A legend. Legend in the local arts community, and really, I mean, well beyond the local arts community, quite frankly. John is such a staple within what it means to be in the arts community here in Erie, Pennsylvania, and great leader. I mean, that's the other thing that comes to mind. One of the reasons, you know, that I considered the job that I have is because I had great leaders to learn from and with, and John, you know, is top of mind.
Visionary and dear friend.
Bearded white guy, you know, white bearded guy.
Well, the first that I remember being in my early 20s, and I'm in my 60s now, and I remember walking into the Erie Art Museum. And when I first saw him, I thought he looked kind of biblical, like Jesus Christ or Moses, you know? And I thought, oh wow, kind of scary. And it was for an international photography exhibit. And so I just loved being in that space. I looked at him, and that's my first memory. And now I've known him, I've seen him, I've partied with him, so it's different now. So I just really, when I think of John, I think of all the places that he has taken all of us with his dream, his passion, and his commitment to Erie and the arts.
I can tell you that every time I see John, the first thing I think of is his wonderful smile and how welcoming he is to all people.
When I think about John Vanco, I think about the article I just read in Allegheny Magazine, where I thought at first take I was looking at Methuselah, or maybe one of the three wise men. I just couldn't tell, because he has that within him. He is so wise, so charming, so modest, so savvy, and so wonderful to be here that I was just overwhelmed with joy and happiness for his success.
The first thing that comes to mind is Erie art. I mean, because John Vanco's name is synonymous with everything art in Erie.
Art. I took art classes at the Art Museum when I was little, so I feel like I've known John for a very long time, and he's amazing.
John Vanco, to me, is what I call my art father. I grew up at a Catholic grade school that my parents sent me to, and we were agnostic. And I would say, Mom, Dad, I'm not baptized. I don't have godparents. Where would I go when you guys die? And they would say, of course you'd go to John and Kathy. So instead of having godparents, I had my art parents, and I absolutely love John Vanco. He's like my godfather in a different aspect, and art is our religion, and I love that.
When I think of John Vanco, I think of the Erie Art Museum.
Wonderful, amazing Erie Art Museum.
The Art Museum. You know, that was John's world.
You hear his name, but you also know the history. I think he has been a much more formidable person in this community. The community just, especially with the Art Museum, you're always associated with John.
You know, so when you think about the Erie Art Museum and just the transition that going from the Art Center when John took his role here to where it is today, to being an outstanding venue, to having such high quality exhibits that really attract people all over the region to it, it's, you know, he's brought that quality and that notoriety to the museum and really created this great springboard for whoever is next to lead it.
Well, there wouldn't be an Erie Art Museum without John Vanco. They hired him as a young man to be a director of a little art center, and they gave him a dream of building it into a museum, and he took that dream and he made it his life.
What comes to mind when you say John Vanco is a story that I like to tell. I met John Vanco in 1974, and he's the other JV in my life. I met John Vanco and John Bahanian at the same time, and it was really John Vanco who I was flirting with.
Zydeco,
The man has fantastic taste in music. That's all I can say. I love his taste in music.
I met John Vanco in 1974 at the Erie Arts Festival downtown, and we were doing sound, and John had his plastic geodesic dome going up, and it was raining, and things were blowing all over the map, and went over and helped him, and that's how we met.
That man is my good friend. I mean, we've done a lot of things together, had a lot of good times. I've shed a bunch of tears with him. It's been, I think what he's done in this city has been absolutely fantastic.
The people who I have learned to appreciate are people who have the vision and then have the persistence and tenacity to see that vision develop over a long period of time. And I think John, almost as much as anybody that I know in the Erie community, is a representative of somebody who's done that. So his museum is a spectacular success. It has national recognition. It has programs, outreach programs, community development programs, and it has peer recognition. It's really a remarkable place.
I think I described him as not only making a sanctuary for artists and art, but a place that's a gift to the community at large and a real benefit to Erie.
John has helped foster that kind of sense of community among artists, which is, important for people to feel validated in what they're doing. And for 50 years, he's brought validation to the whole arts community in Erie and helped it to grow and be strong.
Oh, it's meant everything to me. I wouldn't have been discovered, and I wouldn't have been the professional photographer I am today if it wasn't for the Erie Art Museum. And I owe everything that I have in my photography career to them.
When I think of John Vanco, I think of somebody who really was a champion of the artists and also the community of Erie that was art-minded and bringing us all together. That's what I think of.
I think he's been a leader, and that's part of why I use the word visionary. I think he's kind of set the pace for us and opened up possibilities both within Erie, moving from a house to the Customs House to this amazing new museum. And because of making this place so vital on a city level, the impact regionally, because of the caliber of the shows that he's curated and all the other arts initiatives that he's held. And I think on a personal level, he's just always encouraged me to pursue what I have been drawn to as an artist.
The exhibits that came in were something that you would expect to see in a larger museum. So clearly, John Vanco's vision was one that would bring this museum into the future. And then over these 20 years that I've lived here, I've seen it grow into this amazing facility that it has become. And I believe it's because of John's vision and his passion and his knowledge.
Collaboration. I don't think I have ever had a conversation with John where he didn't talk about another group we were working with or something he was interested in finding out more about so he could bring it to Erie. So I think that's the word that comes to mind, that, how can we work together? How do I do something with another group to do something new? I think that idea of being fresh by working with other groups and learning from them is just elemental to who he is.
As a young, new executive director in the arts and culture field, John has really served as a mentor to me. He has been one of my biggest supporters. He is always there when I have a simple, silly question. I pick up the phone, he answers my email. He's been such a great supporter.
I learn a lot from John all the time, and I probably don't tell him enough how much I'm learning from him.
I think he has transformed the entire downtown Erie. Has brought in a lot of vibrancy, culture, has made a lot of impact on little kids through the different programs that he has introduced in the museum.
Wouldn't be the same without him. There's no question about the music and arts that there's not a lot of money in music and art unless you got some real big paintings, but as far as our whole little museum here, this is quite unique.
When he retires, I'm putting together a little boat that I've had for a long time. We're going to go fishing, along with other things, of course.
John is just a good guy to have along on a ride in a car, and he'll have something to say about practically anything. He's sort of encyclopedia of the world.
He's a great guy to have a beer with.
He is such a gracious person and accepting of everybody. And I'm just, he's been a hero of mine for 50 years. Well, not 50, I wouldn't put it that far. 48 maybe, okay? 48 maybe.
Thanks, John. It's been an amazing ride, and there's all kinds of new adventures ahead.
Hey, John, thanks for 50 years of friendship. Thank you. And good works.
John Vanco, from the biggest part of my heart and from the artists of Erie, including myself, you've been a champion, and thank you very much for all that you've done for us. And many of us are shy around you, but just know we care for you, we love you, and thank you.
Well, thank you, John, for just being who you are. You know, it is your generosity with everyone and everything around you is really kind of inspiring for all of us. But don't let it go to your head.
John, love you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. You are amazing, and we love you. Thank you.
John Vanco, I am so grateful for all you've done for the art community and for my family and me, and I'm also so grateful that you are the other John V in my life.
Thank you, John, for everything you've done for the Erie community over these 50 years. You're certainly an institution here in this community, and your work will never be forgotten.
Thank you, John, for all that you've done for this community. It's been a pleasure working with you. We look forward to more opportunities because I know you're dedicated and you're not going very far.
JV, so good to be your friend. Thank you a whole lot, not just for what you've done here, but everything else that we've shared in life, okay? Beautiful, beautiful guy. Thank you.
And here's a toast to you, John, for the many years of your friendship, your dedicated service, and all that you've done for everyone in Erie. Here's to you.
Thank you, John, for this crazy ride on the planet in the arts and music.
Saying thank you to John is beyond just a thank you. It is gratitude overflowing, John, what you have done for my family, my life, and your presence is, you are like a muse and beyond. Thank you for everything.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John Vanco.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John. It's been a great 20 years.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
Thanks for a wonderful 50 years, John.
Thank you, John. Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, John Vanco, for all you've done.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John Vanco.
Thank you, John.